All right. Welcome to the Backseat Managers podcast. We are here with you again. We got Milo, we got Oscar, and we are stoked to get into some very interesting football news. Unfortunately, unlike last week, we had really happy news that we could delve into. This week, what we've got is two Arsenal losses back to back, which is very unfortunate. We also want to delve into other things as well. We want to delve into the different games that went on around the Premier League this week. Touch on who we think is going to be going down, who's going to be getting relegated come the end of the season in May. If we have time, hopefully, we want to delve into who are England's greatest ever players. Are we seeing them on the pitch here today? Because our brother made a ridiculous comment about how Phil Foden is one of the two greatest ever English players to walk on the pitch. And I think he's an absolute nutter. But we're going to delve into who are England's greatest ever players and then finish up with some Premier League predictions. So let's hop into the sadness. Let's hop into the crappy times. We'll start chronologically. We'll go with West Ham. Milo, what the hell happened?
I have no words. It was the most disappointing game to watch. I think I'm depressed after watching that. Like, it was just after looking at the team sheet and seeing what our midfield looked like, I was very concerned, to say the least. And then you see our wingers and you have a little bit of hope. You're like, okay, Saka's back, Martinelli's back. I know they haven't been on, the same form as last season, but maybe we have a chance of scoring some goals because goals are there. But you look at the physicality in midfield, and first thing I noticed was we don't have the legs to compete. And then you look at West Ham's lineup, and it was strong. Like, their top to bottom looked stronger than ours.
So, are you, in your opinion, is Arteta the one at fault? Is he the reason why we were knocked out of that competition, knocked out against West Ham? What do you think?
I'd say 150% of the blame goes to Arteta. I think he just didn't take it seriously. And I understand rotating players, but rotate some of the plays. If you're going to bring Odegaard on 30 minutes before the end, you might as well just start that guy. If we had him pressing versus...
Havertz and
Vieira.
I think Odegaard specifically was carrying a knock, and we can see, he didn't play this weekend. And I think he intentionally had shorter term minutes there because of an injury.
But he was already benched the game before because he was carrying an injury. If he's able to come in for 30 minutes, then he should be able to start the game, in my opinion.
Well, he came on in the 80th minute, I think, didn't he? So he was on just a little bit, long enough to score a goal. But yeah, he came on in the 80th minute. So he came on for the last 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Okay.
But personally, I think he was our best player because he walked on and scored a goal. And everybody else was pants. But so I get that, the weak lineup, but don't you think that people that are, you could say, more fringe players, there's still people, you've got in that squad, you've got Ben White, Gabriel, Zinchenko. That backline, everyone other than Kivior are all starters. Ramsdale has been our starter for forever, and I think he's just as
horrible.
Yeah, he is, but is that Arteta's fault? No. Havertz starts pretty frequently.
Jorginho starts.
Wait, let me finish. Nketiah's up front. He starts. The only people that really don't start aren't starters. Kivior, Vieira, and Nelson, and Trossard starts. Trossard's a phenomenal player. So for the most part, You have
I had my lineups mixed up. I was thinking of the Newcastle game. We didn't even have Salfaseka and Martinelli, and I don't know why.
no, they weren't.
Those words came out of my mouth.
No,
My bad.
no, those they weren't even on the
more
pitch.
blame to Arteta.
But don't you think as well players have to kind of stand up, especially players that are, might not have as many minutes as others, need to stand up and kind of take a game by the throat, even more than other players, to show that they deserve those minutes.
But it's about balance. Like, you need balance in a squad. You can't throw on a whole B team and
I just named so many people that were not B team players. Ben White, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Ramsdale's not a B team player.
Zinchenko lately has not been a first team.
Okay,
based
White,
on form.
Gabriel,
hang on.
Jorginho, Nketiah, all four of those people play.
Okay, but let me land my point. Point. Right now, first team players out of that 11, the only two is Gabriel and Ben White had a terrible game. Kivior, we know, is not a first team player. Zinchenko has gotten his place taken lately by Tomiyasu because he's been so poor. Nothing changed this game. Ramsdale's had his place taken by Raya. Jorginho is meant to be Ben White. Havertz is in Odegaard's spot, and you could say Thomas Partey would be in Vieira's spot. I know that like some of them haven't been available due to injury. That doesn't mean they're our starting player. And then also Nketiah, Jesus starts over Nketiah every day of the week if he's healthy. Nelson, Trossard, you would say Martinelli and Saka would start with them. So you have 2 out of 11 that would be in our starting squad. And one of them dropped the worst game that he's ever played in an Arsenal shirt. So I would say like it's about balance. And how do you expect those fringe players to perform at a level when they're surrounded by fringe? You have to have a balanced squad. Like, at least bring in some strength in the midfield. Start Declan Rice and leave Havertz and Vieira so that you have some balance. You can't take out our entire spine and then expect all of a sudden us to show up. Especially against a starting Premier League team. Like, they put out a Premier League team. And West Ham, on anything to be, scoffed at because they played really well this season.
That's true, but to push back again, Rice came on at 57. Tommy came on at 57.
It's too late. What were we, 3-0 down by then?
I don't remember. Yeah, we might have been. But still, there wasn't much change.
You're bringing on our first team players when we're 3-0 down. Once we're 1-0 down...
We were 2-0 down.
Still too late. Yeah. You're 2-0 down in a knockout match. And then you're bringing someone on? What about, when we go 1-0 down and nothing's changing and we still have no control over the game?
I agree. Well, so I want to push. I think Arteta, yes, you could say he is, he should have put up a stronger lineup. We should have had more people up front in the wings that had experience under their belt. Do I think that players should have stood up? They folded. Our defensive line, which is the most senior of the lines, of the people on the pitch, the defense was the most senior, and they're the ones that really crumbled in that game. So I think, I think, yes, you can make an argument that Arteta should screwed up and he's the reason why we lost, but I think as well the players like Ben White, players like Gabriel, who are senior players and did not show up at the game, you can also point fingers at them as well. What about?
I think though on the Ramsdale point, that's a pretty weak defensive team. Even though we have Ben White and Gabriel in there, the difference between Kivior and Saliba is ridiculous. And that's because Kivior was. That's because Saliba's world class. He really is. Yeah. He's world class. And Zinchenko defensively is as good of a defensive player as maybe
you got all sorts of noises. You got dogs, you got alarms.
I know. That was the perfect storm.
Yeah. But let's shift into Newcastle. Because
wait, let me just land my point though.
Okay.
I got distracted. Okay. Ramsdale, who's struggling with confidence right now, you're putting him behind a backline that's 10 times more susceptible to attackers, especially good ones, Premier League attackers, than every single match David Raya has had like before. And I think Ramsdale dropped a freaking stinker. I think he sucked. But it's
And again,
like,
whose fault is that though? Like what you were saying, it's Arteta's fault that Ramsdale is in
there's
that
no
situation
balance.
anyway.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
you're putting him into a situation with no balance. That's my problem. The midfield didn't have balance. The attacking didn't have balance. The defense didn't have balance, and the keeper didn't have balance. So you have like every single phase of play on the field with no balance, with a squad that has an identity and has proven in cup competitions that they can figure it out.
yeah.
And especially like Declan Rice going back, I think it was just like disrespectful, honestly.
Let's keep going because we got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. But I do think I do think the setup was not one that was destined to destroy their opponents. That Arteta didn't start the game in a mentality of I'm in it to win it. That's for sure. So let's go over to Newcastle because Newcastle has plenty to talk about, and we have so much more we want to chat about as well. But let's talk about Newcastle. How happy are you with that result?
I have a really good buddy who's a Newcastle fan. He's a really big Newcastle fan. And hopefully in the future we can have him on the pod.
Yeah, I don't meet many Newcastle fans in the US, so that's cool.
Yeah, he's been a Newcastle fan well before the takeover, so there's loyalty there.
Yeah, there we go. He's not just a bandwagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were chatting back and forth, and even he had a really big issue with the VARs that was going on. Like, we were texting back and forth during the game, and he was like, I don't know what the heck Bruno Guimaraes is doing. That was a total red card. Like, just coming behind Jorginho and just wasn't even like close to the ball or anything, just freaking lunged at him.
I was surprised that VAR, because VAR did look at it. They said VAR looked at it, but VAR didn't even say, hey, ref, come take a look at this. And he was fired up the whole game. Like, he was foul after foul after foul. And the fact that he didn't get a yellow card until, like, almost the end of the game is insane because he was just on one. And, yeah, he literally just walks up, clubs Havertz, I think it was Havertz, in the back of the head with his elbow.
No, Jorginho.
Was it Jorginho? And
it was with his, like, forearm. But still.
Yeah, well, it was right here. It was pretty close to his elbow. It was right here. Anyway, yeah, he was just on one, like rampaging like a lunatic, and then the goal.
I think that's where VAR needs to change a little bit. Like, if there's the only time they're sending the referee to the monitor is if they're like, oh, this is 100% this, like, you should go look at it, and like the conversion rate is like 99%. But I think you need to like have the ref look a little bit more in these situations. And the people up in the booths take so long. They take minutes. Take a quick look at it. Refer the on-field referee to go take a look, whether it is a 90% or like a 60% chance, and then get on with the game. You don't need to spend like 4 minutes zooming in, reanalyzing it. Just make a quick call. Go have the on-field ref take a look, and then have him decide because he was there in the regular play.
Well, I mean, we'll get more into the Spurs Chelsea game, but like for instance, that game today, there was 12 minutes added on in the first half and 9 minutes. There was 21 minutes added onto the game.
Yeah,
because of how long.
That's almost a whole extra time in like cup competition.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a quarter of the game.
Might as well gone to PKs at the end.
Yeah, seriously, it's taking so long, and as well the fact it's changing the way that referees make this. They're taking forever to do anything. Like even the linesman would wait, and then anyway, it's the way that refereeing is going on right now is really ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I
in
think
terms of
the goal.
Ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, in terms of the goal, the thing is as well is, the issue is that we have kind of one foot in VAR. Like, we have moved into this assisted referee, but we haven't moved entirely there, which is why there's all these issues as well, because the Premier League hasn't adopted some technology that they could be using that would make some of these decisions less ridiculous. Like, for instance, the World Cup has this like semi-automated like goal decision technology with use of like line sensors and extra cameras and different things like that. Like, when the goal was scored, there was 2 occasions where where basically the VAR looked at it forever and said, "Oh, we don't have enough information. We can't see properly." So it means it's like, what do you? Why can't you see properly? Why can't you see that ball was out of bounds? Like, oh,
Yeah.
because we don't have the right angles. Then
But
get the
then-
right angles. Like,
But then on
the
the
technology
Man United
exists out
side,
there.
yeah. But I'm sure you've seen the clip where Rashford cuts it back that one time to Højlund, and the ball is in like a similar place. I would say in this one, it looked way more out than the one of Rashford's. And the VAR like went back and looked at it and said that there was conclusive evidence to say that it actually was out of bounds. But in ours, there's not enough conclusive evidence to show that it's out. But
this one looked so far out.
That wasn't even my main issue. Like, the push in the back was the most blatant foul ever. Like,
no, I know.
Seriously, 2 hands on his back, rewind. 2 hands on his back, rewind. Like, they freeze framed it, and he's literally shoving him to the ground.
Well,
and then the ball literally hits his arm
head
as well.
Yeah.
It's just it was an absolute crapshoot. Like, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. But so that one is like subjective up to interpretation, right? Of whether that was a not strong enough foul. Obviously, we both think it was. They thought that it wasn't. So, but still, that was definitely a foul. But regardless,
it was definitely
the 2 decisions, the offside and the goal. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, the out of bounds and the offsides call, neither of them, the VAR looked at both of them forever and said, we don't have the cameras to be able to tell whether this is offsides, and we don't have the cameras to tell whether this ball is out of bounds. That's what they said. And that is ridiculous, because the amount of money that exists in this sport, in this industry, in this competition, and you can't get freaking line sensors, you can't get these these goal side cameras where you can be able to make these proper decisions. So if you're going to go VAR, if you're going to make this stupid, ruin this game by taking forever long to make decisions, get the proper equipment so you can actually make good decisions. Because
watch them start like putting commercials in when they're going into like a VAR check or something. Like, just completely like Americanize the sport. But,
well, it's insane how much stop-start exists in football right now. So, yeah, to be honest, should we have won that game?
Which it was never like that.
Yeah, should we have won that game? No, we honestly shouldn't have won that game. It should have been a draw. We didn't do enough to merit score. We didn't look lethal. But honestly, neither did they. I can't remember
one chance that was like, oh, we should have scored that.
No, there wasn't one clear-cut chance. But really, they didn't have clear-cut chances.
No, they had a couple.
It was, for the most part,
had one.
It was as even Stevens as you could get. But
Saliba played his freaking mind out. That one where Callum Wilson was right in front of the goal and he gets his toe on it. Crazy.
Saliba gets man of the match in my opinion, or Declan Rice. They were both. I mean, we've been cheering Declan. Yeah,
but like their centre backs also deserve it because Shell was insane.
They were. And Byrne had
Livramento had Martinelli in his
Oh yeah,
they both had their pockets full of our.
I was just saying, Byrne had like a screwed up back and was still kind of keeping Saka under wraps. So
freaking giraffe legs, dude.
Yeah, no. So it was unfortunate. I think VARs. I mean, Arteta absolutely raged on them. If you read his statement about it, but yeah, that's basically what my opinion is of it. We shouldn't have won the game, but it 100% should have been a draw. If referees had done their job, that it would have been a different result than what happened. We didn't deserve to lose that game.
I think it deserved to be a draw. Like, I think both teams really fought hard, and that's one thing I took away from the game was, it was high intensity. It was a game that you're like, okay, anyone could snatch this and win. And unfortunately for us, Newcastle did, in the fashion that they did, makes us feel like we were robbed. But in the same sense, it's not like we had complete control of the game, and it was like we had a bunch of shots that we could have finished. Like, we didn't have anything. We didn't create anything. Like,
you can't say we were robbed of a win. You could never say we were robbed of a win. You could say we were robbed of a draw.
Yeah,
we were robbed of a draw. We were.
But like, in all actuality, with the amount that we've invested in our squad, and with the time that Arteta's had, and with the squad depth, also thinking about some of Newcastle's injuries that they have, we should have beaten them. And
we were at St. James's Park. We were at St. This was one of the Newcastle at home. First of all, nobody has scored at their home since August. Newcastle is a very, very good squad. This is one of the hardest games of this season, is Newcastle at home. If we wanted to challenge for title, yes, we should have won. But is this one of the hardest games that
we won there last year, didn't we?
We did. I think we did. And then the year before we got smashed. 4-1 or something like that. But we won't talk about that. Anyway, controversial as controversial gets. Let's dive into the other games that went on. So run over them quickly. So Man United Fulham, we had Bruno, who's been kind of a waste of space for most of this season, but slid in with a goal right at the end of the game in injury time.
Yeah, I watched most of that game. Yeah, and I got to be honest, Man United did not deserve that win, and I feel like everyone feels that. But seriously, Fulham had a lot of good chances. Like, I would say they had more goal-scoring opportunities than Man United did, and United got bailed out. Gareth bailed out, dude. It's insane. And
Ten Hag is not.
It's a moment of brilliance. Yeah, it's a moment of brilliance from Bruno, and it was a clean strike. And you know when you just get in past the 90 minutes and you just got a bad feeling, and you're like, I feel like United is just gonna sneak one in,
snatch
and
one.
They just. Bruno got this weird bouncing ball, just took a touch and just finished it. And yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, he got lucky. Unlike Manchester City, who just absolutely demolished Bournemouth. And it's funny because Bournemouth kind of parted ways with Eddie Howe, and they must be looking at Eddie Howe right now and really missing their old manager, because they got slaughtered by Manchester City. 6 goals, 6-1. None of them coming from Haaland, which was interesting. Haaland went off injured, it looked like, at halftime. And really, it came down to Doku, who was just absolutely on fire. 4 assists and 1 goal from him. Just destroyed that left wing. And have to say, Bournemouth are looking pretty ugly down there at the bottom of the table. What did you think of that game?
Doku is a beast.
He's a monster.
Watching some of that, I watched some of the game and then I watched the highlights. Just his like inside outside and like his.
He's 21. I didn't know how young he was. 21. Yeah.
I think City have just picked up a gem. And I was freaked out by him. They look really well balanced. I still think they're a team that can be had by the bigger teams.
We beat them.
But We did. And even though they didn't have Rodri, I think you'd still have to give us credit for that win. And I just
they got
think
beat by Wolves.
Doku
they can have their off days. Yeah, but...
Yeah. But 4 assists and a goal is absolutely freaky. Like, 5 goal involvements in one game from a player who's 21 years old is freaky. Especially seeing as he came in to replace a well-established Mahrez, and he's just hit the ground running. Like, we talk about Saka's form and stuff last year, and we might start having the conversation between Saka and Doku here shortly because of just how good he is at performing.
I think it's early. Saka's been doing it for seasons. Well, it's definitely early, but we'll have to see. But it is interesting. You know, we had that debate last time of what Manchester City look like without Haaland. Well, they look pretty freaking good. They have such a deep squad that, you know, goals.
I mean, they were 3-0 up 3-0 by the time we went off, right?
But again, he didn't score any of those goals. So, but yeah. So
then it's like the team opens up more, trying to score.
That's true.
Yeah, you're right.
We had Nottingham Forest beat Aston Villa, ending. You know, Emery's still killing it. They're in 5th place. They're still
crazy
on fire.
Result, though. There's a lot of upsets this weekend.
Yeah, there was a lot. Luton didn't beat. They drew with Liverpool. What did you think of that game?
I watched the second half of that game, and that was probably the greatest 10 minutes of my life, from the 80th minute to the 90th minute. And
beyond.
Not beyond. Because then Luis Diaz jumped like Michael Jordan and dunked it in the goal. I should say LeBron James. He jumped like LeBron James and dunked it in the goal.
That's true. You are a big LeBron fan. This was a week, and then I really want to chat about today. So the Spurs Chelsea game. Honestly, to be a Manchester City fan, this was about as perfect as a week you could get. 2, 3, 4, and 5 all dropped points this week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Us and 6. No, because Newcastle 6. But Tottenham lost today against Chelsea, got battered against Chelsea. Liverpool drew, we lost. Aston Villa lost. Today, though, was
just to touch on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you going to talk about the Tottenham game, Chelsea?
That's what I want to chat about. Yeah,
okay,
Tottenham, Chelsea. Yeah, and then there's one other game I want to get into after, but I do want to spend a few minutes on this because that was just insane. So 4-1, which is a very flattering scoreline for how Chelsea played. But aside from that, there were 5 other times where the ball was in the back of the net. 4 of them were in the first half, which resulted in 12 minutes. I've never, ever seen anywhere close to that added on in injury time after the first half. 4 times the ball was in the back of the net, and it was
maybe the World Cup.
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know with that, but just... it was crazy how many VAR reviews and how long it took them to reach their decisions. And then just, nasty tackles up and down. I don't know. What did you think of that game? I thought it was just insane. Conor Gallagher afterwards, I heard he gave a press conference. And, he just came back off of winning 4-1 against Spurs, at Spurs. And... he was there. They asked him, like, what do you thought of the game? And he said it was weird. He was like, it was a weird game. It got weirder. Like, you would expect to be just like so stoked that you just beat Spurs, but I think that is exactly how I would. Yeah, it was a weird game. What did you think?
For sure, I think a weird game is a perfect description, and the narrative kind of changes when you go down to 9 men. When you come into the game on the form that Chelsea's been in the past year and a half, and versus Tottenham, how they've been performing this season, like games to points ratio, Tottenham were at the top of the league going into this game. Like if they win, they go back to the top. But as soon as you go down to 9 men, everyone's thinking you gotta finish your dinner. Like you gotta win. If you don't win this, everyone's gonna be laughing.
The tough thing is Tottenham. Not only, first of all, Romero's a moron. I've seen him do things like this before, and he is just a moron. For
he's kind of like
costing this game. But I was just gonna say,
I'd compare him to Gabriel. Like sometimes Gabriel has those.
No, Gabriel
moments.
doesn't. He's not as. I would say he has rash challenges like Chaka had rash challenges, where he would just
I don't
jump
think he's
in
on that same level.
I don't. He's had 3 red cards and has not been for Tottenham with Tottenham for very long. I think he's had as many.
Why do I feel like Chaka's had like 35?
He hasn't. He didn't. I think he's only had 3 or 4. It was very high profile when he did it. He did it in like the worst games to get a red card. But anyway, what I was going to say is Tottenham not only screwed up this game, but they are screwed up for a while because Romero's out for a few games. Van de Ven has been possibly Tottenham's best player, probably top 3, with Maddison, and both of them got injured. And Van de Ven, it looks like, is going to be out for a while. That looked like a really bad injury. And Maddison, I don't know. Hopefully for him, because I, despite him being a Spurs player, I like Maddison a lot, and I really want to see him excel and succeed, like from an England level and everything. But they have City in 3 weeks, and Romero will probably still be out for that. Van de Ven most likely will not be back for that, and possibly not Maddison. And so they're in trouble. I could see them really dropping off in form over the next while because of this game. So you got to feel bad for the other Tottenham players like Son, who was giving it his all from the first minute, and Postecoglou for there wasn't much he could do today.
But at the same time, you got to question your methods when
he was playing very aggressive football with 9 men.
Yeah,
but
when it's tied 1-1 and your back line is at the halfway line and you have 9 men, that's crazy. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
and
it is
Tottenham
crazy.
did have a couple of chances, and that's what you got to credit their offense because it does function really well when they have everyone. Kulusevski was playing like a dog today, and they got really they got mooched by those plays that weren't in the right frame of mind. But overall, I think you got to shout out Tottenham a little bit. Like even though we're an Arsenal pod, they played really well. I feel like they played really well. And especially having 9 men for a while, I was like, Chelsea don't look like they're going to score. And it wasn't until the end of the game it started pouring with the goals. Like once they had one in.
Which at that point they were just throwing everything to try and... And
then they're open.
They're trying to snatch a win.
Every attack was like a 4v2. And you're like, okay, how do you not finish one?
To be honest, when you're 2-1, it makes barely any difference from being 4-1. And so when they're 2-1, they're saying, it doesn't matter if we're putting ourselves in danger, if there's a possibility we could snatch this. And they almost did. They almost snatched points a couple times. So one other game I want to dive into, though, which I thought was just such a good game, was Sheffield against Wolves. Pulled off an upset. Beat Wolves 2-1, got their first win of the season. All the goals were beautiful goals, by the way. Not sure if you watched the highlights for that one. And then Norwood in the 100th minute got a penalty, and rather than doing like a sneaky tap in, he rifled the shot on the goal. It was the most decisive penalty I think I've ever seen. Anyway, it was a great shot, great win for Sheffield. So based on that, Bournemouth getting smashed, Luton tying Liverpool, Sheffield getting the win.
Crazy.
There's still a gulf at the bottom of the table. There's a 5-point gap between the bottom 4 and the rest up. I would love to if we can do it this week, or we can push it a little bit down the line. But I think it would be fun to do some relegation predictions of who we each think.
Let's do it.
What do you think?
We can always change our predictions later on.
Oh, you want to change it? I was thinking that we make it. We rack up the stakes. But if you wanna
you want to put a couple cases of ginger beer on this?
I was actually thinking of putting a jersey on it. That like at the end of the season, whoever gets it gets a jersey of the team of their choosing. What do you think?
Well, yeah, that is interesting. For relegation, I feel like we should do that for top 4.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll do that for top 4. Maybe we'll do something.
Well, we could combine them. We could combine.
Yes. Yeah.
We got to figure out more. We got to define that more, but I'm down to pick our relegation.
Let's make our predictions. So you can go. I'll be the gentleman here, and I'll let you go first. You get first pick of who you think is going to be relegated come May.
Okay. Well, I think let's go one by one. So I'll pick one, you pick one.
Sheffield. You think
Sheffield's got to get relegated?
Okay.
100%.
I don't know. I saw that. I personally think Sheffield's. I don't know. I might be being a little bit too risky, but I was thinking Sheffield's the one I'm going to choose to not go out just because of the fight I saw against Wolves.
Really?
Yeah. So I think, I think I'm going to take. It's going to be. Are we both in agreement that it's going to be 3 of the 4 teams that are currently at the bottom of the table?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Luton, Bournemouth, Burnley, and Sheffield.
Who picks the one that makes it out?
Yes. If you suddenly are saying, well, not quite 50-50, because we might both be wrong.
True.
And also somebody else might slip in there. Everton might slip in there. Wolves,
I just
Forest
don't see anyone else slipping in there.
I don't either. Like Fulham is 15, like all of them, and I think it's going to be Luton, Bournemouth, Burnley, and Sheffield. I personally think Burnley, Bournemouth, and Luton are going to be the ones to slip in. I think Sheffield, even though they're bottom of the table,
that's crazy.
I know.
They're 1-1 in 9.
I know. I never ever would have said this.
So
but the
Burnley,
fight I saw against Wolves was good. It was a good fight, and Bournemouth looks so bad. They look. It was against City, and we slammed Sheffield not long ago, but and then Burnley they're not getting smashed, but they're just consistently getting beat. They're really not showing much fight. I think I'm going to go Bournemouth, Burnley, like Luton. This? Yeah.
In that order?
Are we predicting like the exact, or predicting
let's who's predict in the top places?
Okay. I think Bournemouth is going to... I think it's going to go Luton, Burnley, Bournemouth. No. Yes. Yes.
Luton bottom?
No. Luton's 18th, Burnley, Bournemouth. Bournemouth bottom of the pile.
Crazy. I agree with you. I think Bournemouth is going to go down.
Okay.
Which I feel like coming into the season, you would say out of those 3, they would have the best chance. But after sacking Gary O'Neill, they deserve to go down because
they should go down.
He's done well at Wolves. But I'm going to go Sheffield 20th.
Pick it.
My gut says Bournemouth 19th and Luton 18th.
You think Burnley's going to squeeze it out?
I'm praying.
You think companies? I really want him to succeed. I really do, but he hasn't been doing super great. So,
and maybe that's just like bias talking, but I hope they do.
We'll see. So we don't want to go too much longer. I really wanted to dive in some England chat, but we could save that for another week if you think
Let's
we
do
should
it.
push that off. Let's do it. We don't have a reason why we shouldn't, because I want to talk about. First of all, I really want to get our other brother. We're three brothers. Our other brother, Oliver. We want to get him on here because he has a love affair with Phil Foden, and I want to yell at him with you guys. I want to have everybody come and experience, get on board with really digging him out, because he said that Phil Foden and Jude Bellingham are the two greatest ever players that England has presented, which both phenomenal players. Both phenomenal
Crazy.
players. Yeah, crazy. First of all, Jude Bellingham, insane talent. Insane talent. He is so young. He is so young and has a whole career ahead of him. You can't say just yet that he's the greatest player England's ever
Same
created,
with Phil.
because yeah, same with Phil. But I'm just saying, first of all, Jude Bellingham has the potential to be England's greatest ever player. He does. But like, think about, not that they're the same level, but think about Jack Wilshere. When he came on the scene, he was, this guy is going to be Arsenal's player. This guy is going to be England's player. He's going to be, the next best thing for the next forever. I love Jack Wilshere. I think he's awesome. Injuries and different things hampered his progress, and he had to retire it at 30. And so you never know what's going to happen. So to say something as ridiculous as this kid is the greatest player that's ever played for England, I think it's way too early to tell. Same for Phil Foden. But especially Phil Foden, I think that is such a ridiculous comment, because, one, he doesn't even consistently start for City. City rotates all the time. And two, he doesn't even consistently start for England. He's behind the pecking order of Marcus Rashford and Bukayo Saka. So, and he also said that we can have a Saka debate later, because, but specifically England, I think possibly Jude Bellingham is the greatest, could be, but I definitely think Harry Kane has got to be in the conversation for the greatest ever England player. He just scored a hat-trick this weekend against Dortmund, and is just on fire in the Bundesliga. Not saying he is, but I definitely think he's in conversation. What do you think?
I think Harry Kane's a good shout, and it's always going to come down to this. Man doesn't have any trophies. Okay, he doesn't have a single trophy.
He's gonna have trophies at the end of this season. But
They already dropped out of the polka.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. He wasn't playing though. If he had played that game, he didn't play. I think they would have won that game.
He did. He got subbed on, didn't he?
Nope, didn't even sub on. Didn't even sub on. Here's the question.
Then why aren't you playing, buddy?
Yeah, he was, because it was a tier 2 team, and they were like, oh, we don't need Harry Kane, and they lost.
Harry Kane should be like, I'm playing.
Yeah, here's the question though, because people that I talked about as the greatest ever players, like talk about Wayne Rooney, talk about Alan Shearer, people like Sir Bobby Charlton, who passed away recently, and Bobby Moore. Those are all long before my time. I can't speak to them. I'm sure they're phenomenal players, but people that I know in my lifetime, I think Harry Kane stands up. Like I think you put Paul Scholes, you put Harry Kane, you put Michael Owen. I think Michael Owen stands. I think Harry Kane stands up to all of them. I think he's a better player than Wayne Rooney, and Wayne Rooney is one of the greatest players to wear an Arsenal shirt.
Here's what I'll say: in this generation, they have a lot better chance of being England's greatest player because of the squad surrounding them. So we have a lot of quality. If we win one trophy with any of these players, then they could go down as England's best ever player, because these great players that we've had have never won any silverware with England. And maybe that's where Ollie's argument, and I'm annoyed that he's not here because he can't, quantify what he was saying by these statements, which were some wild statements. But if you're going on pure quality-wise and overall in your career based on club success, how the heck are you going to compare, like, Phil Foden to Wayne Rooney? Like, you can't. You really can't. And
it's
and I love Phil Foden. I think technically, like his dribbling, his first touch, his finishing, like both feet. I think he's like on the verge. I think he's on the verge of world class, and he's sort of that utility player.
I don't think he
Pep
sits
loves.
at the top table. There's a top table, right? Who sits at the top table? Messi sits at the top table. Haaland sits at the top table. Mbappe sits at the top table. I would say Harry Kane sits at that top table. Phil Foden does not sit at that top table. Neither does Bukayo Saka. De Bruyne would sit at that top table.
Salah.
I would say maybe. I would say
Salah's maybe. That's crazy.
I don't know. We can delve into this later. We're talking England,
Champions Leagues, Premier League,
possibly Mo Salah.
Definitely Mo Salah. If you're putting Harry Kane, you're putting Mo Salah.
Yeah, possibly. So I don't know. I think whatever. Anyway, do you think
that's crazy?
So I think the greatest ever England players. Personally, I don't think Foden's in the conversation, but depending on where Jude Bellingham's career goes, depending on where Declan Rice's career goes, I think Declan Rice, if his career continues the trajectory that it's currently on, could be in the conversation for greatest ever England midfielders. I think he's just as good as, you look at midfielders like David Beckham, right? That are considered, Steven Gerrard, first of all, so much better than Phil Foden. But
I think we were both huge Steven Gerrard fans growing up. Even though we're Arsenal supporters, Gerrard was the man.
He is. And he's someone who pulled his team by the scruff of their neck to the finish line. So, but players like Declan Rice, players like Jude Bellingham, players like Harry Kane, who first of all sit right behind each other. That spine, you got Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, and then Harry Kane. That was a beautiful.
We should be winning freaking championships. It's insane, and we should talk more about England success another time.
Yeah, well, we definitely. I think when we delve into when we're on like an international break, we can delve more into it. Basically, I really think we are witnessing. We are in a time where we could be witnessing some of the greatest ever England players. Harry Kane's top goal scorer in the Bundesliga. Jude Bellingham's the top goal scorer in
I don't think he is.
Harry Kane is. He passed it with his hat trick. He's at 15. I think he's at 15 goals.
I thought somebody was at 18.
No. There's another guy that plays for. Yeah, but he has.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy. But Harry Kane just passed him with his hat trick. Harry Kane's at 15. Guirassi's at 14. So Harry Kane is So Harry Kane has scored 15 goals in 10 matches. 15 goals and 5 assists in 10 matches. He has 20 goal contributions in 10 games. That is insane. And he's 30.
Yeah.
He could destroy it in the Bundesliga for a couple of years, gain a couple trophies, come back, and still win the all-time Premier League record for goal scorers. He could.
And come to Arsenal.
I would love him. He would definitely get ahead of Nketiah, but Spurs, it wouldn't. Yeah, that wouldn't pan out. I would take him in a heartbeat, but I doubt he would ever come here. But we could be witnessing greatness, and it would be really interesting. It's cool to see English players thriving internationally, as that's not often what happens. Normally, English players are just domestic. So,
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's wrap it up by chatting about making our predictions. So what we want to do is we're going to be making predictions each week of the upcoming games next weekend. So we're going to take 4 games that are coming up. We're going to each make our predictions of what we think the scores are going to be. And then basically the winner, we're going to keep tally, and the winner gets a crate of ginger beer based on the week. So we're going to keep tally of who wins, and then we're going to settle up at Christmas and drink a crap ton of ginger beer, and and then at the end of the season we'll do the second half of the league. So we are going to go over 4 games this week. So the 4 games that we're going to be going over for next week. The first one is going to be the Chelsea-Man City game. So Milo, what do you think that result is going to be?
What do I want it to be, or what do I think it's going to be?
Well, I mean, it depends how much you want your ginger beer. So
That's true. I'm gonna go 1-1.
ooh, well, if you guess that right, I would love it to be 1-1. That would be phenomenal.
I'm hoping
I
it
think
is.
I think City's gonna win 2-1. I think City's gonna win
And you have
2-1.
to guess the exact score, right?
Exact score. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, like, let's say I guess
Like last
one.
week, we tied.
Yeah,
I got one, you got one, so it was a wash. So
exactly.
moving
And
forward, you have to
yeah,
guess the exact score. Okay.
yes, exactly. Guess the exact score, and then whoever guesses the most right. Which, I mean, hopefully we get one right. So, so I think 2-1.
Let's pray.
So let's go Aston Villa Fulham.
Villa, Fulham. You guess first on this one.
Okay, I think it's going to be a 2-2 draw.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Aston Villa.
Okay. All right, so let's do a Spurs against Wolves. Keep in mind that they don't have Van de Ven, won't have Romero, and probably won't have Madison.
I'm gonna go 0-0.
I'm going to go a 2-1 Wolves.
Oh,
And then
both
yeah,
of us have no faith in Tottenham.
we
What a
don't.
surprise!
I think today is going to really hit Tottenham hard. And then last of all, let's do Liverpool against Brentford.
You can go first.
Okay, I think Liverpool's going to win 3-0.
3-0.
Yeah, I think they're going to come back from the Luton and they're going to smash Brentford.
I don't think so. I think Brentford will be good. I think Liverpool will win 2-1.
2-1. Okay. All right. Well, we will make so those are our predictions. And then next week, we will see who gets the first case of ginger beer. So it would be great. But we'll chat more about what the winner gets of that relegation rumble. But as always, it hasn't been a great week to be an Arsenal fan. But
Polar
it is
opposite
always
to last week.
polar opposite to last week. It wasn't a great week to be an Arsenal fan, but it was a phenomenal week to chat football and dive into England chat and everything in between. So, well, Milo, anything left that you want to tell the world from the Backseat Managers podcast?
I feel like we should come up with a slogan like "Stay breezy."
That's the worst slogan. Well, if anybody that's watching this has a better slogan than "Stay Breezy," please let us know because I really don't want that to be our slogan.
No, that will not be used moving forward.
Yeah, okay, good. So we love your input. But anyway, thanks so much for joining with us today, and look forward to chatting more with you next week when we dive into our game with Burnley, which hopefully we'll get back to winning ways. But thanks so much, and have a great day.